So basically the question is how do you maintain the balance of making your vision, of creating your vision and funding that vision?
Yeah. Well, I think in the way I've actually explained that, it is you have to find the right people to work with. I'm not, a producer in the sense that I don't go around and raise the money, but you have to find, you have to find a producer whose sensibility matches your own. That's basically it. And you can do that by seeing the movies that they make. For example, if you look at the movies that Jeremy Thomas has made, they're pretty, he's worked with Bernardo Bertolucci. You see who they've worked with, Now, if you're a very young filmmaker, you might have to start working with producers who have not done much. And then it's a personal relationship. My son has made a movie called Antiviral, which was very exciting because we were both at the Cannes Film Festival together. His film was being shown and my film was being shown, and that was really quite delightful. But he worked with a producer who really hadn't done much, but who he had gone to film school with. And so that, in fact, I never went to film school, but he did, and he said that the most important thing that happened at film school was the relationships that he made with other young filmmakers, rather than the practical aspects or the theoretical aspects of filmmaking, which you can learn yourself, absolutely. But it's meeting those other people and working with them and understanding how people have to work together. That was the key. So, the other thing too is how I got started and the things that I did are in some ways irrelevant now because everything has changed. Times are different. So it's hard for me to give advice about how you should get into filmmaking now because the landscape is completely different.
Yeah, and the landscape is different, and even this Hollywood way of working has seeped into independent filmmaking. Even in our country, Iceland, you have like script doctors who tell you cannot do this, you have to do this. Yeah. The hero has to be sympathetic and he has to go through this, and then and it becomes a very, very like a straitjacket way of working.
Yeah. Well, I think part of the problem is that there are producers who really don't understand the creative process, and they think that there's a scheme for it. For example, even in Hollywood now, for example, I mentioned Guillermo del Toro. He has started a company which specializes in previs, pre-visualization. What is previs? Well, it's basically you are making the movie in your computer to show to studio executives who have no imagination. And seriously, they read a script and they can't imagine the movie because they're not really movie makers. They're sort of deal makers and corporate people. And so you make a fake movie that's like a video game. And I saw a version, for example, of Total Recall, which every shot was there, and it was like a video game with big, spaceships and stuff. And the irony was that the guys who had made this previs, and there was no director involved. It was before they hired a director, and so
so they prevised the movie before a director.
The lead character looked like Eric Bana, the actor Eric Bana, because at the time he had been cast, but the movie ended up with Colin Farrell instead. So you had this previs with Eric Bana, and the Japanese head of Sony said, Total Recall is going to be a terrific movie, I've seen the previs. And so you can imagine being a director who is now plugged into that, and the studio is expecting you to do every shot as it was in the previs. It's a very debilitating kind of movie making. I don't know whether the director who ended up directing it, because this was a remake of Total Recall we're talking about, not the original one, was Schwarzenegger. And I don't know if the director managed to defeat that. The movie did look good, but it wasn't a good movie. So I don't know if he followed the previs exactly or not, but you see the expectations are there. The head of Sony Pictures thought that he'd seen the movie already. and now you, the director, are just going to paint by the numbers. And very, very strange. And I think storyboarding, the idea of storyboards, that you have a kind of cartoon version of the movie done by a storyboard artist, that too was done partly to plan complex special effects sequences. I've never done storyboards. I don't do storyboards at all. When I'm on the set, I'm just inventing it at the moment. You know, I have the actors rehearse the scene, and then my director of photography and I decide how to shoot it afterwards. I don't know how I'm going to shoot it until I actually see the actors doing the scene. It's like a piece of theater at that point. But young directors who've gone to film school, they have this pack of storyboards, which is every shot. And I've been on the set. One guy, I think he was doing Silent Hill, and he wasn't even looking at the actors. He was looking at his storyboards as they were shooting. It was very odd. And I think the previs is now an extension of storyboards. It's even more. It's like living storyboards. And the thing is that the storyboards for Total Recall cost $500,000, which is more than the budget of some movies. So it's a very, it's a kind of weird industrial enterprise rather than a creative movie making, as far as I'm